What's up, Cowboy Nation? Let's get this thing going one way or another. I got your brother from another mother.
Louie T Network.
All right. So we back into this thing, man. Tell me who you are and what team you root for and why.
Who else could it be? But me, your man, Louie T, host of the Louie T Network. I am a massive Watch the Redskins fan, but I cover all 32 teams in the National Football League on my YouTube channel, Louie T Network. I love the NFL, man, and I've always been a massive Redskins fan since the day I was born. And it's amazing because my whole family are Cowboys fans.
Wow.
So
Traitor.
I get that a lot.
Wow. And you comfortably wearing all that red, man, right now, that burgundy. Oh my goodness. What made you change, man? What made you start rooting for the
I'm
enemy?
from Virginia.
Okay.
I live in Virginia, and I'm born and raised in Virginia. And so the first thing I saw, being that the Virginia area doesn't have a actual team, the only team that was local was the Watch the Redskins. So, I watched a ton of TV growing up, and the first team that I saw was Watch the Redskins, and that's how they became my team.
All right, so you began to watch them and you began to fall in love with them. So was there ever a situation where it's your old pops and everybody else like, son, no, what are you doing with yourself?
Of course. My dad was vehemently against me being a Redskins fan, obviously, and I was growing up in the Cowboy heyday. I mean,
right.
As bad as I hated the Cowboys, I couldn't help but love Michael Irvin, man. He was the playmaker. He was so cool. He would do the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give it to him. First down, you know what I mean? So I secretly loved Michael Irvin, but I couldn't stand the Dallas Cowboys. And my dad was like, man, are you sure you're my son? Because, what are we doing right now? So, yeah, it's always been rough, in those early 90 games when the Cowboys were on the come up and we were on the downturn. It was rough, man. And
what year y'all won the Super Bowl? Was it 91 or was it
91 was 91, the last time we won the Super Bowl. 92 was probably the last time we thought we had a good enough chance to win a Super Bowl with Joe Gibbs. So it's been a while, man.
It's been a good long minute. But what we like to do here is break down roster. We like to look into the details of your team and how they did in the draft and how my Cowboys did in the draft and when we face each other, when we call it hate week or rivalry week or what have you. So I know you very familiar with that since you're the only one on the outside looking in, about those lovely Dallas Cowboys. I know sometimes you found yourself rooting for somebody beyond Michael Irvin now. Come on now.
Of course not.
Of course not. Okay.
Of course not. You know what's crazy though?
Talk to me.
I find myself, I used to at least, find myself debating with Cowboys fans about Tony Romo. Like, it's amazing this love affair with Tony Romo now that he's retired and he's such a great commentator. But when he was the Cowboys quarterback, there were a lot of Cowboys fans that couldn't stand Tony Romo and wanted him gone. And I used to always remind him, like, don't you remember what it was like before Tony? Don't you remember Quincy Carter, Brad Hutchinson? Don't you remember Drew Henson? Like, don't you remember this stuff? Like, what are you talking about? So it's amazing how sometimes I find myself defending actual Cowboy players and from other Cowboy fans. It's crazy.
Well, I call our fan base fickle. We have some fickle fans all together. We have a lot of people. But I think ours is just multiplied by 10.
We're your America's team.
America's skills on every airway. So before we get into the details, I want to know a little bit about Darius, guys. I know he wasn't drafted this year, but I want to know a little bit about him. What he brings, what kind of flavor he's going to bring out there this year.
You know what? That's something that we as Redskins fans can't quite put our finger on yet.
Right.
Because he was a guy that was thought to have first-round talent last year. But, from off-the-field issues, there was the whole issue with the Eagles and their whole meeting with him and how there was supposed to be this shouting match. And that became something that was a little bit of a black eye on him going into the draft.
Right.
But a lot of that became unfounded. And I don't know what was the reason. I think maybe his attitude. I heard some people that interviewed him at the combine were kind of turned off by his personality. And he's an outgoing, engaging guy. So you either love him or you don't. And,
is he Odell Beckham with playing the running back position? What is
no.
He's not that guy. Okay.
He's not going to be beating up goalposts and kicking nets and stuff like that on the sidelines. But he is a guy that is very colorful. He's jubilant. The thing that we've gotten from him, even when he was injured last year, is that he's a guy that has a lot of character and personality. He seems to have this really big personality that people flock towards. And his teammates love him. They absolutely love this guy, and everybody's rooting for him. As far as on the field,
right,
we feel like we have a back that's on par with the Ezekiel Elliott, potentially, obviously in New York. They've got Saquon Barkley. We felt like we were the one team in the division. Now, the Eagles really don't have a big-time back. They think they might have gotten that now in Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
In the second round. But we didn't feel like we had that guy to compete with everyone else in the division on the ground. We just felt like we had like a running back by committee type thing going. And he could be the guy to end all that conversation, but we don't know. And that's why you still have Adrian Peterson still on the roster.
Shout out to Adrian Peterson, man.
Hey, man, AD, man. Love that guy, man. And so that's why we still got him. And then who you should be asking me about is Bryce Love.
I know.
You talk about Cowboy Love. How about Bryce Love? How about some of that?
All right, so from Stanford, we was looking at his tape and his ability to cut, his vision, his blocking ability, everything that you can think of from A to Z. He got an A+ in it. It's just the fact that if you were to play this football game and you to turn injuries off, then I would say arguably that the Redskins are one of the tops in the NFL. Could be really poking at like the best if you take injuries out of the equation. Now, I would say this, Louie T, we just don't know. Do you feel that he's going to be able to back it back up? And do you think that he can play next year or come into the middle of this season?
I think so this is the debate within the Redskins nation is with
y'all got a nation. Hold on now.
Okay, we even got a show called Redskins Nation, baby.
Get out of here,
man.
Continue, por favor. I didn't know that there was a Redskin Nation, though. I only know that there was only one nation now. Come on.
Hey, there's plenty of burgundy and gold to go around, man. I can slide you a little bit if you need something, man. Look, with Darius Geis, he's a guy that we think can be an in between the tackles runner. I don't necessarily know if he has true, legit home run speed. That's where Bryce Love comes into play. And I think the debate inside Redskins Nation is that, will this guy be available? Because he's telling everybody, but you never listen to the player when it comes to injuries and when guys will be back. Right. But he's telling everyone that he thinks he can be ready for training camp. I think that's a little bit premature. I think that's a little bit ambitious on his part. I think he's the guy that you probably look to start on the PUP list.
Right. And
then you're talking weeks 7 through 9, somewhere in there where he's eligible to come off the PUP list. And if the Redskins are in a position where they're competing for something meaningful, which I'm going to tell you just flat out, I don't see that this year. I could be wrong. Now, the defense could say otherwise. But right now, I just don't know if the Redskins are good enough to compete for anything. But if we are in a position come week 8 or 9, where you could use some help at the running back position, you could easily see Bryce Love suit up in the Redskins uniform this year.
Oh wow! So you thinking that he can be one of those guys that down the line can just show up and show out and just be one of those guys that we'll say, oh yeah, you forgot about him. Yep. And guess what? I think Odell Beckham was like that his rookie year. He didn't play for week 1 and week 2. He just came. Right. They slowly moved him in because he had hamstring issues, or it could have been vice versa. He didn't play all preseason, and then all of a sudden they said, "Hey, look at this 13 kid from the Giants. He's catching everything that's thrown out there."
Right.
So Bryce Love is that special guy. That's another guy that I had high on my radar. His name is Terry McLaurin. Can you explain or tell me about him?
So it's funny that you asked because Terry McLaurin was a guy that I I wasn't that high on initially. When we first made the draft pick, I was a little bit I was on the fence about the pick because I thought there were other
Right.
receivers at the time of the pick that could have helped. And really, I thought we needed to address the offensive line, particularly guard,
Right.
at that pick. And you guys actually took the player I wanted at that time, Connor McGovern. So
Oh
I
wow.
was saying that we needed to take maybe a guard, but if you're going to go receiver, I thought there were other guys like Hakeem Butler, for instance, that was on the board at that time that would be a better fit for what we were looking for. But then, you look at Dwayne Haskins and you take a guy from Ohio State, you want some familiarity there. You want a guy that he's very accustomed to. And so you throw Terry McLaurin in the mix. And then so it forced me to go watch more tape and go watch more tape and be a little bit more familiar with him before I started spouting off. Because look, if you watch college football, you can't run from Ohio State. You can't. You're going to watch Ohio State football. They're going to force feed you Ohio State football. So I was familiar with Terry McLaurin, and I said, he's okay, but he's not an exceptional, wide receiver. I don't think he's going to move the needle per se. But when you go back and watch, there's a lot of good things to like with him. He's tough. He blocks extremely well. Probably one of the better blockers in all of this draft. He's a guy that will do the dirty work, will run the big route, 7-yard slant, go over the middle of the field, not afraid to take a hit. But also on 3rd and 6, you can throw him the football and have him make a play for you. But then obviously the biggest caveat with him is his speed. And he can take the top off of the defense.
Yes, he can.
So,
a nuanced route runner. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the guys, and of course Montez, he dropped in the draft a little bit because of the unfair ruling of his heart conditioning. I heard that they misdiagnosed him. It cost that kid millions of dollars, right?
They did.
It cost him so much money.
Their loss is our gain. I'm so excited about that because when you look around the NFC East landscape, and I'm like, I want what they got. I want what the Cowboys got. I want one of them Tank Lawrence dudes, man. I want one of those Havoc Reekers.
Not going to happen.
You look at the Giants, and they had JPP for a little bit there. They had Olivier Vernon. They had guys that can get to the quarterback consistently. The Eagles, Fletcher Cox is a beast. He might be the best defensive player in the division.
Right.
And I'm like, where's ours? I want one of those.
Well, you guys got that Bama love over there. You got the Bama boys inside.
We are the Washington Bama skins over here, man.
All right, so I'm going to ask some quick questions that's in the chat box, man. They saying that who is your pet cat for your Redskins this year?
Who is my, come again?
Your pet cat. Let me move my mic. Your pet cat, the person that not the dark horse, the person that you're in favor of, the person that you really got your eyes on, the person that you really want to see, take over everything in the game.
So is it a player that I am not expecting this from, or is it that most people aren't expecting it from, or is it just anybody in particular?
Oh, somebody that it can be like me. For me personally, on my team is my pet cat. Was Michael Gallup last year. I was telling everybody that Michael Gallup, he's going to be a guy once he pick up the offense, he's really going to blossom. I compared him to some crazy people. I'm not going to mention it again on the airways because I was so high of him. But he's showing me true colors that Michael Gallup, he's stronger, bigger, faster now. So that was my guy that I was rooting for last year. So who's that one guy that you're rooting for?
So is it a rookie? Does it have to be a rookie?
It don't have to be a rookie.
Okay. Mm-hmm. If you're talking rookie, there's a couple actually. Kelvin Harmon was a guy I was super high on coming out of NC State. Thought he was more along the lines of a 3rd or 4th round pick in this draft.
Yeah.
He dropped to the 6th round. I think we might have gotten ourselves a Pierre Garçon type of wide receiver, something we've lacked in DC since 2015 when Garçon and Jackson both vacated. Or 2016 after they both left. So I think that's a guy to look out for. If you're talking deep sleep, Jimmy Moreland, a 7th rounder out of James Madison, dude is a baller, man. I think he could easily come in and win I told everybody on my Redskin video that I said, he's making a roster. Like that, generally you can't be bullish on 7th round picks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's making the roster, but this guy could ultimately start in the nickel, in the slot. So he's another guy to look out for. And then if you're talking about a guy that's been on the roster for a couple of years and I'm looking for him to do big things and explode, I think it's time for Jonathan Allen to take that step up and say that I'm the alpha male on this defensive line. Of all these Bama guys that we have on the team, I'm the best of the group, and I think it's time for him to step up and show that.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man. So you guys got Landon Collins, right? Mm-hmm. He's a box safety. Now, I don't think that he's going to cover anything. You guys got a nice front four with the Bama boys. And then on top of that, you still have – shout out to Faber and Monroe. I don't know if he's going to be – is he healthy this year? Is he okay?
He's healthy. I think Fab is coming, man. Fab is one of those dudes that they're trying to figure out where the best place to play him is. In his rookie season, they had him out wide. He got a few snaps out wide as a boundary corner. And in year two, they kicked him inside to the slot because that's where we needed the most help. And he had his moments, but he also wasn't as comfortable there because that was new for him. He's more of a boundary guy like he was at UCLA. So I think in year three and moving forward, I think he's a guy that they really want to work outside. And if they can get him to play consistently outside, I think that's where his home will ultimately be.
All right. So we talked about a plethora of those Redskins players, man. Now, my Dallas Cowboys players. Out of my draft, who did you pretty much was like, man, dog, I wish we had a chance to get this guy? Who do you feel?
So I've already broken down your entire draft. So for those of you out there that aren't aware, I break down every team's draft in the NFL, and I've done the Cowboys already. It's called the Draft Wrap-Up Series on the Louie Network. So if you haven't had a chance to, check that out. But I loved your second-round pick, Tristan Hill, out of UCF. This dude is a beast. Now, I know that Jerry Jones and company, Steven and company all already said, look, man, you got to sign this little contract here that says you're going to work hard, bro. Like, that was his issue at UCF. And he was one of these late bloomers in terms of the conversation during the draft process. A lot of people weren't talking Tristan Hill early in the process, not even really up until we got closer to the end of the process. He lit the combine up. That's when he got on my radar. I went and watched tape, and I'm like, who is this guy? This guy
that twitch.
Impressive. You know what I mean? Like, you look at him for his size, you're talking about a 310-pound interior defensive lineman, but this dude is explosive. And we talk about Ed Oliver, and we talk about Quentin Williams and all these guys with all this explosiveness. He's just as explosive as these dudes.
Listen, hold on. Listen, Cowboy Nation. You guys are getting some good, valuable information for the nation from somebody from what we heard, Redskin Nation. You know what I mean? Louie T from the Redskin Nation dropping the information down for everyone because a lot of people was high on the safety. Everybody was like, hey, you should get a safety. But it's something about when you have pressure into the inside, especially when you have Case Keenum, trying to learn the offense. You got Carson Wentz, you got Daniel Jones of crying out loud for the Giants. Shout out to Cruzine too, as well as in the chat box. And then you have Eli.
That's my guy too, man. That's my guy.
but go ahead. Let me hear some more of this Tristan Hill. What you got in your radar?
Yeah, I mean, so I look at him as a guy that he's explosive off the snap. He's a guy that if he's engaged mentally, which is what the Cowboys want from him on a consistent basis, he could be a problem up front. He's one of those guys. I don't think he's a two-gapper. I think he's a one-gap penetrator, a guy that you just ask, get up the field and create havoc, bust up plays, and that's what he does. He's going to beat guards and centers right off the snap with his explosiveness. And I think he's not only a guy that can get you tackles for losses and blow up plays, and he may not make the tackle, but because he's so explosive and they got to pay attention to him and he's in the backfield and that running back's got to stop his feet. Here comes Leighton Vander Esch. Here comes Jalen Smith for a tackle for loss. And so I think not only can he stop the run, I think he can actually get after the quarterback too. And so with Rod Marinelli, who to me is one of those defensive line whisperers, getting his hands on a guy like Tristan Hill, I think the sky's the limit for him.
Yes, indeed.
I think he's going to ascend on that defensive line for the Dallas Cowboys sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so that was a solid inside pick. And, of course, we got McGovern, too, so it's another solid inside pick.
Yeah. I think you absolutely missed on Connor Williams last year, and I think that's why you picked Connor McGovern this year.
Connor Williams speaks everything of a tackle to me. What is your evaluation on Connor Williams?
Well, so I didn't love him as a tackle last year coming out. I thought he had to move inside the guard.
So you thought inverse. You thought he's better suited for the inside.
Yeah, I thought he was going to – and see, this was my thing was I didn't think he was athletic enough, even though his numbers speak otherwise. I didn't think he was athletic enough, and he dealt with some injuries too.
True.
And so you watch some of those games, and he said that he dealt with some injuries. So you kind of go back and forth with those things, because when a guy tells you he's hurt, then you got to take him on face value. But there were some games last year where you're like, man, he got destroyed. And 2 years ago in college, I'm referencing,
Right.
he got destroyed, and you're like, man, I don't think he's cut out for the outside. And you look at his measurables, short arms, not the prototypical tackle size. So you're like, okay, just kick him inside, he should be fine, right? And the struggles were immense last year. Now, me being a Redskins fan, I was pleased to see him struggle. Okay,
Yeah.
Pleased to see him struggle, but I was never a Connor Williams fan to begin with, so it didn't surprise me when he struggled.
Yeah, so when you look at Connor Williams' overall production and everything like that, so now that he got the size, now he's a little bit bigger. He's still not the 325 or the 328 that we want inside, but I think that by him being a good 315 opposed to a 298, I think that should help him out a little bit. But he did help. I always like to go back to this tape. He slowed down Fletcher Cox for a few series, so that was a round of applause for that, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's like putting a placeholder on Connor Williams to see how he's going to look his second year. Most centers and most guards inside they improve year to year, so we'll see how that thing can all unfold.
And you can't write him off yet.
No.
I'm not a huge Connor Williams fan, but you can't write guys off. I always say, players are like snowflakes. And no two players mature at the same rate. You know, you get a guy that you draft, and he might not get it till year 3. You get some guys, they hit the league running, and year 1 they come in and they bust it up, and you see the potential, like a Michael Gallup, who I thought played really well last year. He ate us up a couple of times, and had a big catch in DC that tied. I think it might have gave y'all the lead, and then if Dak didn't overthrow him in Dallas, that was a 90-yard touchdown right there. So he looks good too. You know, and you got guys that hit the ground running like Gallup did, and then you got other guys that take a little bit of time to mature.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: Are you sold on your coach?
I am not. I actually wanted to move on. And first of all, let me say this: any Redskins fan out there, they know how I feel. But for those who aren't Redskins fans and don't know how I feel, I love Jay Gruden, man. I think Jay Gruden is a heck of an offensive mind. The key is a guy that, as an offensive coordinator, and I've said this on my podcast, Louie T Network podcast. Check that out if you haven't already done so on every major platform. I just had to get that quick plug.
Oh, man, nothing wrong with a shameless plug, man.
There's nothing wrong with a shameless plug, man.
Plug
on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Music Play, on TuneIn, on the LouieTNetwork.net. It's everywhere, so check it out. But I talked about how everybody's not made to be a head coach. You know, Wade Phillips, you guys know him all too well. Great defensive coordinator, not a head coach, man. And it's okay.
But I can only imagine you looking at the LA Rams and you said, no. Yeah, we let all that valuable asset go.
Started on that. But see, at that time, when Sean McVay got the opportunity, I still thought that there was hope for Jay Gruden in DC. I thought that, you know, if we could just, like you said, if we could just stay healthy, you know, Jay Gruden can lead us where we want to go. But when you look at some of the things that have transpired and you listen to guys talk and you look at the way this team is undisciplined year in and year out, you look at guys like BJ Swearinger coming out and saying, we don't practice hard enough, we're undisciplined, and he's not the guy that's going to crack the whip. And you start putting 2 and 2 together. You see all these things over a period of, I think he's been Redskins head coach now 5 years. It's a trend now, and it's something that you've come to expect. And it's not something that, it's something that happened here or there. You think this is who he is, and I think that's what we found out last year, and really before that. And so I was ready to move on after the season. I was ready to wipe my hands clean of the entire front office, Bruce Allen, Jay Gruden, all those guys I thought needed to go. We needed to start clean, and obviously Bruce Allen isn't going anywhere.